We're going to head back to the Senate in a moment and get a little bit of insight on why they carved out some $400 million from the ask from President Trump. But let's have a quick refresher on exactly the terms we're talking about and how one goes about putting together spending packages. First, Trump's big, beautiful bill was passed through the reconciliation process. That's a special legislative process designed to speed up changes in spending and tax policy, but only spending and tax policy. It is essentially somewhat of a budgeting mechanism that allows the House and the Senate to pass legislation with only a simple majority, 51 senators, for example, to pass a reconciliation bill. But then what is, therefore, rescissions? Well, simply put, it's the cancellation of previously approved government funding. Rescissions are proposed by the president, as I mentioned, forwarded by the White House over to Congress, approved by Congress. It's the kind of spending cuts that DOJ went through with a fine-tooth comb and suggested to the president. Now, when it comes to the $9 billion in cuts on this rescissions package, what are we talking about specifically? Well, this is the Senate's proposal. $7.9 billion in cuts to USAID and other foreign assistance programs, and $1.1 billion in cuts for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which runs NPR and PBS. That adds up to a little less than the $9.4 billion the House and the White House wants to cut. Republican lawmakers are staring down, by the way, a deadline of Friday to get this measure to President Trump's desk. So where does this all stand? Joining me now is Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, who's also a member of the Budget Committee. Senator, thanks for being with us here today. I think let's start with the $9 billion package that's rumored to be coming out of the Senate. First of all, does that even have the votes in the Senate? Can you get 51 senators to approve $9 billion in cuts?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know. We had a luncheon meeting today. OMB Director Russ Vought came over and tried to explain the bill. I was pretty discouraged after the meeting. I would describe the meeting as organized grab ass. I mean, a million questions of Russ, a lot of whining. Put this in context. The president's asking us to reduce spending by $9 billion. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but that's 1/10 of 1% of the budget. And the spending he's asking us to cut is stuff like $3.6 million for male prostitutes in Haiti, $3 million to buy condoms in Zambia, $500,000 to buy electric buses for Rwanda, just a bunch of spending porn. And I've listened to my Republican colleagues. I love them all. But I've listened to them for years, and certainly for the last 100 days since President Trump was elected, talk about the need to reduce spending. And here we are on the verge of the vote, and I don't know if it's going to pass. But I know this much, after listening to all of this rhetoric about we need to reduce spending, if every Republican doesn't vote for it, we ought to hide our head in the bag, man. It's embarrassing.
I share your embarrassment, Senator. I actually think it's even embarrassing to ask for the trim from the $9.4 billion that the House and the White House have forwarded over to Congress. If the Senate can only come back with $9 billion, saving $400 million for, AIDS programs in Africa seems to be the hang-up at the moment. I think that would be somewhat embarrassing for the Senate. And I don't know who we're talking about, Senator. Collins, Murkowski, McConnell, Tillis. I don't know who we're talking about, but that would be embarrassing, much less it would be complete travesty to not even be able to get, as you point out, 1/10 of 1% of federal spending approved to cut?
Well, yes, the bill has been reduced by $400 million. I don't know why. I sat next to Eric Schmidt at lunch. He's handling the bill. All I know is that to make one senator happy, he had to reduce the spending cut by $400 million. And I got to tell you, Will, I'm tired of paying bribes to people to do the right thing. The reconciliation bill, we got it passed, but it was nauseating. I'll tell you what I learned from that reconciliation process and all the bribes that we had to pay. In the real world, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. In the United States Senate, pigs just get fatter. And if they start having to bribe senators to vote for this bill, I'm off this train. I'm not going to take a bullet train to Chumptown. Now, this is very, that means that this stuff is very reasonable. The president is asking us to cut spending porn. And I'm going to raise fresh hell if they have to start reducing it even more to bribe senators to get them to vote. I'm sick of it.
Well, it'll be refreshing to hear that hell that is raised, because one thing we don't want to hear more about is senators that talk the good game on deficit and debt problems and then vote to save $400 million headed over to Africa, or can't even put together 0.1% of our federal spending. It is certainly maybe not a surprise, but certainly enlightening.
Well, what you do is what you believe, and everything else is just cottage cheese. We're about to find out what some people believe and who supports spending porn and who doesn't.
All right, Senator Kennedy, we'll be watching, as you point out, and we're watching for that fresh hell. Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, man.